What's up and good afternoon, guys? Welcome back to another video. Just over here, looks like our deionized tanks are still doing good. One thing I wish these tanks had is like an actual percentage meter, which I'm sure is like, I don't know, really hard to actually make something like that would work on this type of system. But the light system is kind of what they use. Basically, green lights means you're good, red lights means you need to replace a tank. And I gotta say, we wash a lot of vehicles off of those two tanks and still no problems. Now, I don't know how many months we've had them. 3 months, I'd say, maybe a little bit longer. And those two tanks are still reading green, so we don't have to replace them anytime soon. So we've got the old BBB build here kind of resting after, ooh, what kind of bug was that? That's disgusting. Need to give this thing another bath. But like I was saying, we're just coming back from the show, which you guys saw in yesterday's video. And one thing that kind of got brought up a lot at the show, and I've seen it a lot in comments as well, it's typically from people that don't watch the channel as often as the rest of you, because the rest of you guys kind of know. But a lot of people were saying, especially at the show, was like, I would start talking about parts, or they'd be talking about the cost of something, and they'd be like, oh man, I totally thought you just got this whole thing fully sponsored. And I'm like, well, we do have a few sponsors. And I feel like there's a very big misconception out there when it comes to big truck builds like this, that everybody thinks that all the parts and everything is just all handed to the person, and labor's covered, everything's covered, and they got a free truck build. And I can say, at least in my case, and almost everybody that I personally know's case, that is definitely not what's going on. Although, trust me, I wish it was. And even if a company was to give you just every part for your truck free, you still rack up a pretty giant labor bill in terms of getting everything installed, getting things powder coated, getting things painted, whatever it may be, to finalize out the finish on it. But because I want to dispel any of those myths, I'm going to jump in and let's talk about basically front to rear, everything on the truck that was either fully sponsored, given to me partially sponsored, or I paid for myself. Now coming up here to my DB Customs grill, basically what they did for me in terms of sponsorship was got it done in time for SEMA and made the custom grill that I wanted. Other than that, I pretty much paid full price for that grill. Coming over to the headlights, which headlights, mirrors, and tail lights, they were basically all from Legends, all from the same place. And what they ended up doing for me was they took care of me pretty decently on price, but still had to shell out quite a bit for these things because, well, they're not cheap to do or make. And obviously on some of these things, I can't give you the exact price that I paid, just because obviously the companies that sponsor things, they don't want people knowing. I still paid in the thousands for the whole lighting setup. Then if we come down to the bumpers, obviously I have front and rear flog bumpers. Flog, once again, for SEMA, they did sponsor the build, but I still as well paid them thousands of dollars to get the bumpers that I have. But they gave me a price break, which I'm super appreciative of. And then coming down, since we're still on the front bumpers here, we've got the C4 pods, which also tie in with all of the C4 rock lights that are underneath the truck. Now C4 on my Silverado build, he gave me a price break on all the rock lights that I got for that truck. And you know, I've stuck with Chad over at C4 on every one of my trucks since, and when it came to this build, he was gracious enough to fully sponsor this build. So all of my rock lights, all of my front and rear LED pods, C4 Off-Road hooked me up with for free. Now, coming over to one of the bigger expenses of the truck here, and that is the front coilover conversion setup that Bulletproof Suspension did for me. It's not an off-the-shelf kit that they had. They actually had to build it on the truck for me. I actually shipped my truck to them. They built it off of it. So kind of the way that they sponsored me on that was they basically agreed to build something that they don't sell for me, for my truck, for SEMA. Still paid what I'm pretty sure is full price for that whole front lift kit right there. And trust me, that's not cheap. And let me backtrack for a second because, well, we're kind of working our way down the side of the truck here, which includes all of the parts and pieces that I had painted, which is also the bumpers, the grille surround, and a couple of other pieces that I had to have painted. None of that was hooked up. And then there were these things over here, the old fuel wheels. Now, one thing I like about the fact that I've paid full price, or essentially full price for most of my stuff, is if it's bad, I'm not like contractually obligated to not badmouth the people, or I'm not gonna burn a bridge by badmouthing a company. If it's bad, I'm gonna tell you guys it's bad. And well, these fuel wheels were nothing but issues. If you guys watch back, I mean, there's 2 full videos on the problems I had with the customer service over at Fuel Wheels. And that's with me not asking for a hookup, not asking for a sponsorship. That was me paying full price for custom fuel forged wheels. So these were all paid for by me. The Toyo tires, those are all paid for by me. None of that was hooked up. Now, since we're talking about wheels, I did get a free set of wheels and tires, which are sitting over here. Because obviously I was supposed to be in the Dropstar booth over at SEMA, and well, you can't be on the Dropstar booth on some fuel forged wheels. So they did send me out this set of wheels. The tires were sent to me for free as well, other than I did have to pay a couple $100 in shipping for the tires. So like I said, nothing is exactly as free as it sounds. And on the Dropstar wheels, I was actually supposed to get TIS wheels in the style that I had picked. And those were actually gonna get done like the Fuel Wheels, to where it had the transparent copper powder coat and then the black lip. But last minute they ended up sending me some Dropstars, so it wasn't exactly the wheel that I had wanted. These wheels are really nice though. You know, I gotta give it to Dropstar. Everybody that has seen those like those. I know some of you guys actually like those better on my truck than the Fuel Wheels, but being that the Fuel Wheels match the truck in terms of powder coat, that's kind of the reason they're still on the truck, even though, trust me, I don't like the fact that I'm promoting Fuel Wheels by driving with those on. Now, one thing I'm not good at, and this build was no exception, is asking for free parts. I suck at it. I think I've tried it like once or twice, it didn't work. I'm just not good at it, whereas like guys like Wes and Austin and Brian and all those guys, they can hit up a company and like all of a sudden they're sponsored to getting free stuff, or at least really big price breaks. Well, one thing, and the guys over at Preston's actually did this for me, was on the 4-link rear end, because, well, this is probably the most, well, this is the most expensive portion of the entire truck build, was the Ultimate Air Ride 4-linked full rear end kit with all of the compressors, intakes, the AccuAir E-level system. Just all of that was an absolute giant expense. And if you guys are curious as to what that costs, go onto their website and you can price that entire setup out. And yeah, that one was that was a hard pill to swallow on how expensive this rear end was. So at that point, the guys over at Preston's were like, let's see if we can get them down a little bit because you're going to SEMA, and let's see if we can work a deal. And there was a lot of back and forth, but at the time Ultimate Air Ride was building a couple SEMA trucks of their own, or at least for their own customers at their own shop. So I ended up getting like, I think it was a couple $100 off of the entire setup, which, trust me, I'm appreciative for any amount that anybody's willing to give me off. But you can only imagine how mad my bank account was at me for dropping that kind of money on the rear end. But yeah, essentially, you know, aside from a couple $100, that full rear end was paid for by me. And since we're back here, Speed Pull, which I should probably look where my hand's going. Speed Pull, which you guys know I rock the Speed Pull flagpole setups. He's been a sponsor on every one of my truck builds. Matt over there takes care of me on pretty much everything that I've ever needed. Extremely appreciative of him. So if you guys are looking for flagpoles, go check out Speed Pull. I'm telling you, best out there in the market. Now at the back of the truck here, oh, hold on. Message. All right. At the back of the truck here, obviously I'm running my big Gen Y hitch, and this hitch was actually fully sponsored from Gen Y for my truck for SEMA. That being said, we still took it completely apart, had the entire thing powder coated black because it comes in that textured like black gray speckled hammered look. I don't know exactly what it's called in powder coat, as well as the stabilizer bars were done the same way. So we pulled those whole things apart and had everything powder coated copper to match obviously the wheels and the lift kit, as well as the bolt locks. Bolt Lock is a sponsor for the truck, but I'd actually purchased one of these prior to knowing that they were jumping on board. So kind of like I was saying, guys, even though, you know, some parts may be fully sponsored, you're still got money in them in terms of powder coating them, putting the finish on them, or making them match your vehicle. I imagine Gen Y at this point, I've seen some people's builds where they actually do finish it for them prior to sending it out. I didn't even know it was showing up. That was kind of the cool thing about working with SR Designs, going to SEMA, was it was like Christmas. I had parts showing up quite often for the truck that I didn't even know were coming. And since we were just talking about the powder coating on the back over there, let me tell you, the powder coating on this truck was an enormous expense. Obviously, the transparent copper is not cheap in itself, but I don't know if you guys remember, when the entire front end got built by Bulletproof, they had sprayed one coat of the transparent copper, and it's a two-stage powder coat. So essentially they spray like a chrome first, and then they come over top of that and they spray it with the copper color. Well, if you do one coat, it looks a lot lighter than if you were to do two. Well, when Fuel Wheels screwed up my wheels and we had to spray these twice, even though they were supposed to strip them and refinish them and they would have only had one coat on it, but they didn't. They completely sprayed over top of it. So essentially now the copper had 2 coats, which meant it didn't match the front end that Bulletproof had done. So I had to pull this entire front end apart. Well, I had to pay to have this front end pulled apart, repowder coated. Just in the cost of that, just to kind of put things into perspective, the cost to pull the entire front end apart, have it repowder coated, was $3 grand alone. So you guys can kind of get a little taste on just the enormous expense that it is in just finishing parts on the truck. Now, if we move to the interior of the truck, one of the few things that was fully sponsored again were my road wire leather interior seats, which absolutely turned out beautiful. Obviously, there's work for it in every headrest. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the truck. And yeah, they were a full sponsor of the truck. Once again, grateful to have road wire on the builds. They do amazing, amazing quality of work. Now, some of my buddies that own companies that sell performance parts, I got all those at basically cost, which is still, you know, not like the markup on these things is giant when it gets down to the distributor level. So pretty much anything motor work wise, tuning, exhaust, all that, I paid cost for. And let's just, I don't even know if we need to talk about the immense amount of labor that went into this entire truck build. The amount of hours Zach and the rest of the guys over at Preston's put into it amounted to a pretty steep labor bill. But I mean, that's what it takes to build something like this. And the reason I work my butt off, the reason I have multiple businesses going at one time is so that when it comes down to building a truck like this, I can build it without having to rely on other people or other companies to jump in to try and give me stuff for free or to try and give me stuff at a discounted rate. And that's one of the things that I know I've mentioned in a few videos on talking about getting sponsors is nobody looked at me until I already spent a ton of money on this truck. And at that point, they kind of know you're serious and you have a product that's already almost done. And that's when you'll start to get companies' attention. If you come to them, a rendering helps, but if you come to them with no rendering, nothing, and you start asking for parts and you say you got this big dream truck build that you want to do, they're not really going to take you seriously. It wasn't until I spent and almost had this truck completely built that companies started taking me seriously. There's guys out there that are on like their 10th SEMA truck, and by now they're getting so many things for free, and well, I mean, maybe one day that'll work out for us, but for now I'm going to continue to work and save up money, and then hopefully at some point we build us another SEMA show truck because, well, I haven't shown you guys this yet, but our trophy display over here is getting a little bit big. I've added the truck poster that we take to the shows with us as our little backdrop right there. Eventually we're gonna kind of, I don't know, make this area look a little bit better. We're starting to run out of room. I told Dave the other day I almost had to move his Keurig for this giant best lifted, you hear that, Carlos? Trophy that we won here. And Dave's like, no, we can't move the Keurig. We need to build another area for the trophy. So we'll see, maybe that'll be coming to the warehouse soon.
This is your health inspection, inspector.
Oh, I got a health inspection?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Oh, it's your first time on the channel. Oh my God, you know what to do.
Work for it.
What are you gonna do?
Workfor.com.
Oh, you got free soda.
Supporting our hub location, you know.
Free soda?
Free. Gotta get it while it's free. Nothing's free in life, but if someone offers it to you, gotta take it.
Ladies and gentlemen, JT, hardest working man.
You know, we're just trying
Second hardest working man that I know.
Oh, you're number one, of course.
No,
I'm third. Oh. It goes you, Dave, then me.
You know, JT's a Chevy guy, but for some reason, another guy with a Ford work
Don't
truck.
buy Ford. Don't buy Ford. You gotta get what you pay for, you know. Doesn't have no huevos on it, nothing. That can't tow. You just throw your stuff in it, and that's all you get.
JT, tell us about yourself real quick.
Not much to say.
What do you do for a living?
Construction.
Thanks, buddy.
That's pretty much it.
Way to really break it down.
Hey, bro, I just, you know, if I tell you everything, I won't get on the channel again.
JT, concrete finisher, form setter, equipment operator, loves side work. Don't tell his boss. So me and JT, we met what, high school. We both got our start in construction in doing concrete. One of us decided that was going to be their lifelong passion. One of us decided I wanted to experience some other types of trades, so I kind of went and ventured out and did other things. JT, you still love it?
Most of the time.
All right. Now, one thing I got to say about him is always working. Hardest working man I know. And to his wife out there, who may or may not be watching, but is probably going to overhear this, you know, great guy you got right here. Great guy.
She doesn't know I'm here.
Oh, she doesn't know you're here?
No.
Oh, she's supposed to be working?
Yeah, I am. I got to do another job.
How are we going to make that Range Rover payment?
got another side job right now.
Look at that. See, this guy's always working. And he has to be because his wife, who's probably listening, has to have a really nice Range Rover. All the kids got really, beautiful house.
But I give her that. She does pay for her own Range Rover, and she does work hard too. So,
yeah, we'll go with that. Just kidding. I love both of you guys. One thing I always tell you guys, if you guys are in the trades and you're like, well, I'm working for somebody else, how can I make some money? This guy does, he's always calling me after he had a full concrete pour day, being like, yo, you got anything else going on today? I want to make some more money. I want a double header. I want a triple header. Weekends, he just called me the other day because he's going to borrow some lights of mine that he's doing a job, at like 3 a.m. or something like that?
3 a.m. That's kind of why I was here right now.
Oh, you want my lights?
I would like to borrow one.
But they're not here.
Oh, all right. Well.
Yeah, my lights are at my house. I apologize for that. But yeah, he wants to borrow some of my lights because he's going to be doing concrete grinding.
Concrete grinding and caulking.
Oh, lots of caulking.
A lot of caulking.
So really the whole point of making this video was to kind of dispel the myth that everybody's just out there in the Instagram world getting tons of free parts. Everything is free, because unless I'm doing something wrong, that is definitely not the case. And trust me, I've tried to pull a little bit of the YouTube leverage here and there to get some free parts, and well, so far it hasn't really worked. So if you're out there planning on building your truck and you're relying on the fact that some companies are going to give you some free stuff and that's the only way you're going to pull off that build, just stop. Don't even start until you make sure you have enough financial resources to where you can complete the truck build without having to rely on everybody. And there's one thing I've come to realize in this life. Don't rely on anybody for anything, whether it's free parts, whether it's somebody to be in a video, somebody to come help you do something, somebody to be there when they say they're going to be there. I always have a caveat to where I kind of make sure I can do things on my own versus relying on anybody because, well, there's a lot of flakes out there. But with that, we're going to wrap up this video. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not subscribed already, please click the subscribe button now that we do not miss out on any future content. Don't forget to give this video a like, aka a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out workforapparel.com because if there's anything you want in this life, not everything's free. You got to be willing to work for it. You guys are the best. I'm out.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.